Da-da-da. Here we are live. Happy Monday for our Money Monday. Excited to see all of you out there today. My name is Maggie and I'm here with Purse Strings. We're all about coming on every Monday, providing some financial education, tips, tricks, pieces of advice. But when we need professionals to go to put things in transition or transaction, we have our top tier financial professionals, our Purse Strings approved professionals, willing, ready, and able to serve you. We have Dale with us today, and he is one of our Purse Strings approved professionals, and we are going to be talking about a certified retirement coach and all those things that entails. Before we jump into that, Dale, would you give a little introduction about yourself?
Certainly. I've been a CFP for quite a long time, been actively advising people on financial issues and retirement now for 39 years, starting 40 years in September. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about how I became a certified professional retirement coach as well in an early part of this. If that's okay, we can do that. But I have, we were just talking about this. I have 5 grandkids, 2 boys, and just yesterday we spent, Saturday, no, it was yesterday. We spent, for the first time in 3 years, all 5 grandkids together at the same time. So it was really kind of Christmas in June for us. Pretty awesome.
How fun. I love when families can get together. Yep, it's not always just about that day, but just getting everyone together, and that just makes the special moment.
A lot of energy in the room, that's for sure.
I'm sure. What's the oldest one?
Oldest is 5, the youngest is 3.
5 under 5? Hard pass.
There was, well, they were switching off. So it was every 6 months, there was another one being born. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, we all got to take turns. But all right, today we are here to talk about a certified retirement coach. And I'm very interested to talk more about this because it's something new. I think I learned more about this when I met you, Dale. So I'm excited to share this with the rest of our community. So let's just kind of start out with the basics. What can a certified retirement coach help you out with?
So this is where I want to just give you a little bit about my own background. I've been advising people for a long time. And in our practice, we do financial planning and have been for, like I said, almost 40 years now. And we spend a lot of time helping people kind of get transitioned. Everybody hears about what their number needs to be or how much money they need to have in retirement. That's pretty mainstream, even though we find that the bulk of advisors out there actually are not doing comprehensive planning. They're mostly doing investment management work. And so we focus on that for a long time. Well, my son is my partner. And so we were talking about my own transition out. And I was having these difficult thoughts about when I do finally transition to retirement, where's my relevance, and connectedness? What am I going to do? And the bottom line is most of our clients have become really good friends, and a lot of our really good friends have become clients. And so I was thinking, if I get into a situation where they're asking me about their financial and I'm not connected to it, it's going to be weird because I've been doing that for so long. So my son hired a retirement coach. That's where this comes in. And Pete Finland is who introduced me to Purse Strings, actually. And Pete Finland started looking at what we did. And he said, Dale, you already do all these things. You should just become a coach yourself. And so the Certified Professional Retirement Coach program is a program that helps people get past the non-financial aspects of retirement because it's a huge transition. I believe the numbers are, retirement transition was ranked as the 10th most stressful thing out of 44 items in your life.
Wow.
And so it is a very difficult time, especially if your identity is really wrapped up in your work. Take it to a lesser degree. Imagine those of you out there who have become empty nesters and you've been wrapped up in soccer games and basketball games and football games and child events, and you're always known as so-and-so's parent.
Yep.
Now they're out of the house. And now what do? To retirement is even worse because there's oftentimes you don't connect yourself with people who are in the senior center and you're still not able to do things with your friends that are still working. And so there's an extreme level of loneliness, and a very large percentage of the population who retire actually experience significant depression. And so that's where we started this journey in talking about this. Long answer, but that's kind of how we got here.
Which is so interesting to me because, everyone always dreams about retirement. You even see some of this younger generation of doing the FIRE, where they retire early, and everyone's rushing to retirement about how it's these glory days. But it's interesting of how this can be a really hard and almost depressing time. And so, but we do think about, let's say, a teacher who's not going in every day, who does not have the schedule, does not have the conversations with all these other people every day to keep that human interaction going. And so if you're, thinking about, hiring a retirement coach, when would you kind of start this process?
No, that's a great question. Yeah, it's typically within a few years of retirement, but there are things that you need to do prior to that. For example, from a financial standpoint, you certainly want to be planning for retirement way before that.
Right.
And the younger you are when you start, the more power your choices have. There's lots of studies, and you can find these all over the place about compound interest and the compounding of investments. A small amount of money when you start young will grow to a much larger amount of money than if you started a lot later and added a lot more. So you got to start with those things first, but then you got to start getting into mind, what do you want to do in retirement? So a lot of times we get into this thought that you hit that magic age, you cross that threshold, and it's all going to be, rainbows and, lollipops. And it often isn't. A lot of what you just said, Maggie, a lot of your social connections come from your people at work that that's one of the things over the last 2 years that's been challenging, and where we've lost that connection. Zoom has been great, Facebook Live has been great, but I much prefer a 3-dimensional relationship than a 2, and you get much more out of it. So if you don't have those connections, think about just the last 2 years, what if you haven't had those connections? Now imagine you don't have the Zoom calls. Now imagine that you don't have that purpose of what you're doing. You're not working toward a project or working with a team or what have you. Now what do you do? Mm-hmm. And so in our financial practice, we've been advocating people try on retirement way before they actually pull the trigger. And that's where the money aspect comes in and things too. And then we start talking about the non-financial aspects. You can only play golf for so long. I mean, I don't know. I can only be bad at golf forever for a long time. So you got to find other things that will make you want to get up in the morning. And that's when we start doing volunteering. So here's a quick story. We had a story about a woman that was doing social work, really significant work, but you have to invest a lot in yourself, when you're doing that. And she finally got to the point of burnout where it was just too much. And so she decided it was time to retire. She had a pension, was able to retire, which, by the way, from the financial standpoint, most people don't have pensions these days anymore.
Right.
So, but she had a pension. She was able to retire. She got to retirement. The rainbows and unicorns and lollipops didn't happen. She got bored. She decided to start volunteering. So what did she know? She knew social work. So she went back and started volunteering as a social worker. Now she's all frustrated and she's not getting paid for it.
I was going to say, she's doing the same job.
She's doing the same job. And so we got to figure out those things that you would do for free. Good example. We know people that are social people. They want to get out, becoming a docent. Now, I had to explain to my son what a docent is.
Yeah, I don't know what this is.
So it's a volunteer at like the zoo or like a air museum or whatever else that brings richness and brings stories to the patrons that come there. So they're kind of like a combination concierge with the local storyteller, with the ranger, there's a lot of pieces to it, but it gives you a social connection on something that you're passionate about that you would absolutely do for free. And
I know a man who did that for trains at a museum and loved the trains anyways. He was a collector when he was a kid. So as a retirement position, to go once a week and to talk to kids about the different trains that they had, he loved it. He loved it.
And guess what? He's the head of the class right there too. So everybody's coming to him. We had another person that retired from one of the big manufacturers out here. I'm in just north of Seattle, and we started off this. We have a little workshop we call Naked Retirement, stripping away the financial aspects. And for some people, our marketing team are all women. They said, "Well, I don't really like that name," so we changed it to "Honey, I'm Home Forever." And so this one fellow retired, got home. He was underfoot in his wife's domain where she's not used to having him around. He ended up going to work at a Safeway as a box boy. Now, you would think that's not a great job for that. He loved it. He would have done it for free. He's in there, and all the little old ladies that are going shopping are always hitting on him. He's like the man about town there. Everybody loves him there. So he just loved it. So it just, whatever it is that floats your boat.
So what's kind of this idea of trying on retirement? I'm kind of intrigued by this concept. Could you explain that a bit more?
Yeah. So what are you going to do? A couple things. What are you going to do that will get you out of bed? What hobbies can you develop? You can only work overtime so much or whatever else, but what are you working for? What do you want to do? I like photography. I like flying. I like, excursions out in the woods. I lead Jeep trips.
Fun.
There's a lot of things out there. There's all kinds of things, bike trips. We have somebody that wanted to go to every major league ballpark in the country. That'll take you a while to do. NASCAR, travel. We have people that have hiked across Ireland.
Wow.
Or horseback rode across Ireland, There's all kinds of things like that. So that's part of it, is what are you going to fill your time with? The other part of it is the financial aspect. If you truly think you can live on X amount of money per year, do it.
Mm-hmm.
See what it's like to live on that kind of money. You might be surprised. There's a couple of concepts with regards to that retirement planning, the financial part, and that is that you don't need to make typically what you make when you're working to retire. And the reason is, once you retire, you're not saving for retirement anymore. You're not paying payroll taxes. And if those things cause your income to go down, your federal taxes are going to go down too. That's just three of them. So you don't necessarily need to make 100% of what you're making now. And so then try to live on that amount. Try to live on, if you're making, 100, try to live on the 70 you think you can do in retirement and see how it goes. You might be surprised. So you might find
a good way or a bad way.
Yeah, both ways, actually. It depends on what your habits are. If you have expensive tastes and habits, you might need more, right? And then that means you better plan longer. But and then market conditions will cause, whether to retire early or not. But that also helps you with retirement, because there's a lot of financial part of that your financial advisor should help you with if they're not doing so. So, but try on retirement. Try, especially what are you going to fill your time with?
Yeah.
Here's another one too. Your friends, a lot of your social connections are through work. That's also where you get your quality social connections. So having an interaction about a project at work with a team is a lot different than liking somebody on Facebook.
Right.
It's a lot different than collecting likes or friends on Facebook or LinkedIn or what have you. Text messages. I'm an old school guy, right? Texting does not have the same satisfaction as a conversation. So how are you going to fill your time then with the friends and develop those friends? When I first did this, I'm thinking, well, most of my friends are tied up with what I do. Mm-hmm. And so how do I start finding those people? So, we have an exercise called a friends list that in a nutshell basically is try to inventory the friends that you have now through work, through social, through church, through volunteer, through family, through whatever, and then rank them on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is an acquaintance and 5 is somebody you could call in the middle of the night and they would respond to you no matter what. Okay. And then be intentional about how do you move somebody up the scale that you would like to see at a higher number.
Right.
And at the core of all this, ask yourself, would you be on their friends list?
Yeah, it's important.
So that's just one aspect. And another way how fill your time, we have something called a curious list that we do. We've all heard of to-do lists. A lot of guys, we all have honey to-do lists, so we all have the bucket list. We all have things like that. A curious list is something somewhat different in that you don't commit to putting time or effort into it right now. It's just something you're curious about. And if you're curious enough about it, you'll want to put time and effort into it when that's available or you want to prioritize it. So again, for me, photography is one. I have about 11,000 images now, and I started actually selling them this year. So I want to do more about that. Yeah, I want to do more about that. It's not about the sale. It's kind of more about the validation. But my wife was really funny. She didn't want me to sell some of her favorite images because she wanted to be the only one that had it. but that's kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of things to fill your time, to kind of a lot of these also, to keep you sharp. These conversations that you have at work keep you thinking, keep you on your toes, keep you creative. Where, like you said, liking on Facebook or these different things, it's not that social connection, but it's also not, you're not thinking more, you're not really using your brain. And of course, anything, we don't use, we lose, which we don't want to lose any faster than we have to.
And that's why I think retirement communities are so popular. 2 years ago, we bought into a 55 plus community in Arizona. So we spent half of our time in Arizona, and you can guess which half that is. It's not the summer. You can say that much. But these places have so many clubs and interest groups and so forth that if you can't make new friends moving to a place like that, you just aren't trying very hard. So,
right.
And all you got to do is insert yourself into something that you're already interested in, or you're curious about, or it could be a hiking club, it could be anything, and it's just a way to make those social connections. But doing something you love.
And like you shared, it's just a 55 plus community. It's not like you have to be 85 and really in a home to go to one of these places. They have plenty of where you just buy a home, and then once you're much, much older, they'll start taking care of you. But, you can start building that community now, which is really great.
Well, and this is a differentiator too. So the place that you referred to is more of a retirement community, to where you're expected to go into, assisted living or even convalescent care. The place I'm talking about is just an active adult community. It's not, there's no assisted living there. If you got
like a Del Webb.
It is a Del Webb, actually. It's a Del Webb. It's called, I just lost it. See, there's the senior part coming out, right?
Yeah, I'm telling you, you got to stay sharp. Some reason I thought they had a
Sun
home.
City Festival, that's what it is. Sun City Festival out in Phoenix. But you're right. There's a natural process of a little bit of cognitive decay as you get older. Just we call them senior moments. Not being able to come up with the name of the retirement community that you live in is one of them.
Well, let it slide, Dale. It's not on record.
As a young parent, you probably know that when the craziness happens around the house. So there's lots of different ways to do that. But you're right. Staying sharp is a key thing to keep you going. One of the groups that's down there is kind of funny, is a cigar interest group. So, and you can't smoke inside. So we meet, bring your lawn chair, you sit out in the parking lot, and you have to swap your cigars, talk about cigars and swap stories. So,
there you go.
So it's a fun social way to get together. But yeah.
It is important to think, past just the money of what you're going to do with your time. And part of that does reflect of, okay, so how much money do I need to have to do these things with my time? But not all of them are expensive. You just need to kind of see where you want to do. And so you said, it's really great to work with a retirement coach a couple of years before you go into retirement, kind of try retirement on. Does working with a retirement coach, is this like a monthly coaching set or a couple of years? Is this like a worksheet, plan of attack? What does this layout kind of look like? Granted, it's different for everybody, but
no, and that's a really good question, because what a retirement coach is somebody that can help you kind of connect the dots, and it's typically not a long-term therapy session, and it's definitely not a therapy session.
Right.
So there's a group that I'm part of. It's called the Retirement Coaches Association, or RCA. And some of the coaches there are psychologists, psychiatrists, very highly trained in the clinical sciences. And that is not me. I'm more the practical guy on the, so if I need that for a client, I will refer it on.
Right.
My role is really more to help connect the dots, to build awareness, to get you thinking about things. And this workshop is part of that we do. I had one of the guys we had recently in a workshop. He's a 70-year-old practicing trial lawyer.
Wow.
Yeah. And you say retirement to him and he breaks out in hives. So I said it a whole bunch of times just to desensitize him. But
of course.
But at the end of this workshop, he basically said, I don't understand why people aren't talking about this more. It's so important. And that's what the issue is. And that is that people don't talk about it as much as they probably should.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it's because it's relatively new as a subject matter. A lot of it's probably because of how to monetize the discussion. In my view, my financial practice is where my income comes from, and this is more about awareness. So I do this with our clients. I do this with non-clients as a free workshop. And it's just more about reducing the number of suicides, the number of people experiencing depression, trying to help you gain happiness. I mean, we know people that have limited amount of money who are very happy,
right,
and people who have a lot of money who aren't very happy. So it's not the money. It's more about the attitude. It's more about the gratitude. It's more about the perspective. And so that's what this is about for me. But there are people that you would go to on a regular basis, and they do charge a fee, and that's wonderful. And they're usually relatively inexpensive to do it. But if they can help you connect the dots, it'll be really worth it.
You want to live those last years, 30 years with a ton of fun. You don't want to be, sad or depressed or anything like that, because that's kind of what we've been hyping up is this big retirement. So you do want to make sure, you live your time here for the maximum. And I think it's crazy, how long we are in retirement now these days. It used to just be 10 years and maybe you're in retirement, and now it can be 30 years. And so you do have a lot of time to fill.
Yeah, just a few generations ago when Social Security started, you know why they picked 65?
Because most people passed before then, right? Or passed right around then.
Very good, Maggie. Very good. I'm telling you.
Thank you. Exactly. I mean, if now people are living to 100, that's 45 years.
Now you have to plan on average. Now you have to plan on at least 25 years on average beyond that.
Yeah.
So that's a big difference. And that's only been in the last 80 years that has happened that way.
So if anything we can see staying home for the past 2 years is we do have a lot of time to fill. So we just want to make sure over the next, 25 or 30, we're really using it to our maximum. So if people wanted to reach out to you and talk more about your retirement coaching services, what is the best way for them to do that?
My email, you have it scrolling across the bottom there, Dale, at tfsadvisors.com. Make sure to mention Purse Strings or met me on Purse Strings. I get a lot of email, and so I don't want it to end up in junk or what have you. If I don't respond relatively soon, it's always my objective to do it quickly. It might have gone to spam. I might not have seen it. That's one way to do it. And then and we were, our clients are all around the Western states. So if you want somebody local to you in New York, for example, then I would go on to the Retirement Coaches Association, or RCA.org, I believe it is, and just find a coach there. But give us a call first if I can be helpful. I like being a connector of people. So if I can be a connector for you, I'm happy to do it.
Awesome. Are there any last pieces of advice that we're missing today before we wrap up?
Well, you told me I had 3 hours, right?
Yeah. So we're just getting started, but
the key is just to go boldly. Think about your life this way. If you had 5 years to live, what would you want to accomplish? What would you want to see? What would you want to do? It's not about stuff necessarily. It's about relationships. It's about experiences. It's about connecting with family, friends, fix those connections that need fixing, etc. And then imagine that gets dropped down to 48 hours, or excuse me, 5 years. Now, what would you want to focus on at 5 years? What would you want to focus on? What do you have to give up? And then take it down to 48 hours. And if at 48 hours, it's not about what you want to accomplish anymore. It's really more about what do you regret not accomplishing? What did you have to let go of? And as you're thinking about this while you're younger, think about those things that you would regret not having done and go do them. Go learn about it. Go, build that relationship. Go, help build a house for Habitat. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is that fulfills you, that would keep you from having regrets, so that when that day comes, you live the life well lived.
I love it. I love it, because we all deserve to live fearless lives. So thank you, Dale, for coming on today and providing all this great information. Dale is also one of our Purse Strings approved professionals, so you can check him out on our site, pursestrings.co. Reach out to Purse Strings or to Dale if you have any questions, and we will see each other actually not next week, because it's going to be the 4th of July. So the week after that.
And I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn too. So
look at you, social.
I know. I'm not on TikTok. No TikTok for me. Sorry.
Yet.
I leave that up for Maggie.
So, we'll talk to everyone next week. Thank you again, Dale, and have a great week.
Bye, everybody. Thanks, Maggie. Bye-bye.